The next midah of Yehuda is being fearless. Well, we did speak about his sense of responsibility, but that carried on to a fearlessness. Addressing and even threatening Paro. Truth is, even standing up to his brothers and saying not to kill Yosef. The concept of a leader needing to be fearless is not just because he has to be able to do all sorts of frightening stuff. But the most important one is that leadership means deciding right and wrong on the basis of what is right and wrong and not on the basis of what is popular. Going back to the failed kingdom, going back to Shaul. When Shaul finally admits to the fact that he did not fulfill the Devar Hashem, because he did not annihilate the entire nation. They brought animals. He says, Ki yaresi es ha'am. I was afraid of the people. Leadership cannot be afraid of its constituents. Elchanan Wasserman, in his Sefer Ikvis de Mashiach, he's referring to the Gemara that describes how society is going to deteriorate before Mashiach's coming. And one of the things it says there is Pnei Hador Kipnei Kelev. The face of the generation will be like the face of a dog. So Rav Elchanan explains what that means. You ever walk your dog? The dog runs out in front of you as if it is the one who is leading and keeps turning around to see where you're going. He says, Pnei Hador Kipnei Kelev means that in Ikvis de Mashiach, leadership is not going to be bold leaders, fearless leaders who determine right and wrong, but instead it'll be a leadership that keeps turning around to see what do the people say. That means the leaders are being led by the people. That's not leadership. You may ask, on the contrary, that's democracy. Isn't that beautiful? The Torah doesn't believe that democracy is so beautiful. Democracy means that right and wrong are determined by the public. But we believe, we know there's absolute right and wrong. It doesn't take all that much to sway the public in some direction. Besides, when you deal with the public, they're generally swayed by what either sounds good or is convenient for them or comfortable physically, emotionally. There's got to be a clear leadership that is fearless, ready to stand up for what's right, regardless of what anybody else says. This is true of leadership on any level. Even a family. Of course, one has to be sensitive to where everybody's holding. You don't just give rules and step on everyone. But that's a matter of strategy. One has to stand up for what's right and make sure that what's wrong is not around. It's not a matter of what everyone feels like doing. True in a family, this is true in any organization, this is true in a community. Certainly when you're talking about the Jewish nation altogether, there's a need for leadership that is not swayed by the public. So you may ask another question strategically. How will leadership survive if it's going against what the public feels like doing? It's a theoretical question. In practice, the public respects a leadership that knows what it's doing and stands up for what's right. It may not be exactly what they had in mind. It may be that they would have preferred a different set of right and wrong. But looking up to a leader who is fearless and doesn't just surrender every time there's a public uproar. That's what they want. They want leadership. And going back to a family, there is no question that as much as kids may enjoy when their parents are constantly giving in to them, they feel orphaned. They feel like they don't have parents. Yeah, they know that the parental thing to do is say things that are not so comfortable and convenient. And it's difficult, and you complain and fetch. But to know that you have parents that stand up for something, that you can count on them. If you feel that you can manipulate them, then you don't have parents. Of course, again, it has to be done in good taste. It's got to be done sensitively. But parents that are afraid of their kids are not parents. That's not parenting. And the same goes for leadership. Leadership that is afraid of its constituency is not leadership. Sort of rubber stamping what everybody else wants. Shlomo Wolbe, Zichron Levracha, later in his life, when he retired from the yeshivas, he lived in Yerushalayim in Givat Shaul. And there was a shul there that opened up. Someone had built a building, shul for Avrechim, and they asked him to come and be the Rav. So you got to hear what he told him. He said, if you really wanted a Rav to tell you what to do, I would have declined. Because I don't consider myself of the caliber of enough of a Talmid Chacham to determine halacha for all of you people. But I know you people. You want to run your own shul, but you want an old man with a white beard sitting in the front. That I'm very good at. He took the position. That was probably the best musar he could have given them. I don't want to get off topic, but I would suggest that if you join a community and you have a shul, make sure it's got a Rav. Doesn't make all that much difference who he is. But the fact that the community sees themselves as answerable to somebody is a very good sign. Getting back here, the leadership that allows right and wrong to be determined by its constituency is not leadership. If leaders are afraid, they're afraid to speak up, that's not leadership. You have to know when and how. You don't make yourself irrelevant, but you've got to stand up for what's right. You cannot tolerate injustice. You cannot tolerate what is absolutely wrong. You have to be able to tell it like it is. Again, with seichel, and we'll deal with that also. Another midah that is necessary for a leader is that he has common sense, I would hope. But clear, leadership has to give direction and not take direction. Not take direction from the masses. And to be fearless. That's from the masses, and going back to Yehuda, the same thing standing up in front of Paro, to be fearless, to be ready to stand for what you stand for no matter what, and no matter what the consequences. No matter what the consequences. First and foremost, for the sake of seeing to it that what you do is right. And second, because that's what leadership is. People want leadership. With all of their complaints, they will appreciate a leader who is clear, definitive, even if what he says is unpopular. And on the contrary, the more unpopular it is, as long as it's not ridiculous, but the more unpopular it is, the more they feel he's a leader, the more secure they feel, the more proud they feel, the more they respect him, because they know he's fearless. Really works the other way around. The reason he's following them is for the sake of his popularity, so he doesn't get run out of town or outvoted. He loses respect in their eyes. And going back to the evils of democracy, when one's political future is determined by his ability to get votes, it is obvious that that is a system that is not supporting leadership. Democracy is therefore leaderless. No, this doesn't sound so good. Sounds like, I'm taking you back to the Dark Ages or so. But the Torah believes in leadership. The Jewish nation is supposed to have a monarch. Of course, he has to be a good one. We'll learn all about it. But leadership is not by popular opinion. It's like voting on right and wrong. That can't be. So yes, the midah of Yehuda, fearlessness, as opposed to that of Shaul, Yoresias Ha'am. It's a clear necessity for leadership. So in ourselves, we have to work to develop a clarity of right and wrong. Never be wishy-washy. Not be ready to bend just because it's a bit impractical or unpopular. Again, with common sense of how to go about it. But how to go about it doesn't mean bending. How to go about it means when and how to say it. But not bending. One doesn't bend truth for the sake of being popular. Okay, that's today's midah. after the different forms of achrayas, standing up for what's right and being fearless. Okay.